The 1-2 split, like we just saw, has the right side going half the speed of the left side. And then we have 1-4 split, where it goes 1/4 of the speed of the left side. The right side is going 1/4. So for every 4 steps the left makes, the right side makes 1. So let's listen to that. It's a very different sound to have this melody play at a different speed than the bass line. And I think you've seen that probably in the videos I've shot thus far, how just changing that speed makes a huge difference in how these notes are perceived against these notes, depending on the speed. It makes a huge difference. When the notes land in different places in regard to the repeating bass line, it sounds like different melodies. It sounds like different things going on. And there are 2 things I want to tell you. First of all, if you turn this knob right, when you go to half split or even quarter split, it will offset. So it's not just like rigid, it becomes syncopated. And let me see if I can make that happen. Okay, so now it is no longer synced in the same way to the left side. The right side is now kind of offbeat, syncopated. And that's a matter of when you turn the knob to land it on the 1/2 split or the 1/4 split, you can generate that sort of offset. And it's one more layer of variability that you can add to your sequences. And the other thing I was going to say, at any point you can start turning the mode knob to change the speed in the midst of your performance. So you get to decide how these different melodies can emerge by how quickly the notes go by. Sorry, I keep switching it to serial, which is not what you want to do when you're demonstrating the thing I'm demonstrating right now. So I can create my own melodies due to the fact that these notes going by at different speeds breaks up the melody in a way that sounds new to the ear. And if you want it to get back to normal, you have to be able to hit the reset button to resync both sides so that they align back up at the beginning of their first column. And there we have it, realigned. And you have to do that in time, by the way. So you are not in any way rigidly locked into the standard sequential pattern, and it's about to get even more complex. Let me talk about the jump function and the reset function. Okay, so each of these is broken up into, each of these sides is broken up into 4 columns. And what the jump function does is when you flip a switch, like this one here, that switch acts as a block, which shuts off the rest of the column, and the sequencer jumps to the next column. So what jump does is at the point at which that switch is set to jump, it will cause the sequencer to jump to the next column. And that means you can create different sequences of notes in the midst of the notes you've already programmed. You can cause the sequencer to play the notes differently by directing it to the next column. Now, much like a sound wave, you can't go backwards, and you can't isolate one note and have it play that note. It still has to be sequential. But the moment you click jump, it'll jump to the next column and play whatever notes you have set to play in the next column. And then it hits a jump and moves to the next column. And you can skip columns by hitting the reset switch at the top of the column, which means, like, if we have this set to jump, when the note, 4 of those notes will play, and then it will jump to the next column to play whatever notes are available. But if we have reset on, it will return to the first column. So you can make some limited choices about what columns play and what notes in those columns play. Let me demonstrate this because I know it sounds crazy. Okay. I'm going to turn the fill off. There's no point in having it on because we're not in that function anymore. Here we go. I'm going to just play the bass line so we can focus on that. This is the bass line playing its normal way, going through its 32 steps. So now I'm going to switch this jump. Right then it jumped to the next column. I can do that at this last column. Went back to this column. And so you can make decisions about what notes play in each column. I have the jump happening here, so only these 4 notes play. I have the jump happening here, so only 2 notes play. I have the jump happening here, so these 6 notes will play. And jump here, so only those 4 notes will play. And so it'll cycle through those note amounts of each column. What we can do, so if you make judicious choices about what notes exist in your sequence, and you have a good grasp of music, you can come up with whole new melodies or whole new bass lines or whatever by your arrangement of jumping. So we could do something like this, where we could do something like this, where I have turned off 3 of the columns, and it's only the first column repeating. We could also make it so only the first 4 notes of the first column are repeating. So even right there, and you've seen me do this in the previous videos, you can affect progressive changes in your sequence to make it more song-like and more melodic and more whatever you want. Now I have it so the entirety of the first column plays the first 2 notes of the second column, and then neither the third or the fourth column play. So then your responsibility as musician is to make decisions about what notes you want in your sequence, and then the ways that you can arrange those notes, maybe metrically or asymmetrically, to play new melodies or new bass lines using the jump and reset functionality. It's a lot of fun to create new melodies and new bass lines and things in the midst of the sequencing itself. It becomes a new sort of composition, manipulating this structure to do the things that you're doing. Now, I usually let the bass line go and then mess with the melodic element, so we can do that too. Okay. So we have a nice melody that we've created that is different than this sequence. And don't forget that we can also mess with how it plays back. So as you can see, you have the ability to, at any point, just start flicking switches to reconstruct how the right section plays in regard to the left section. And likewise with the left section, I could be doing the same jumps and resets with the left section while I'm doing jumps and resets with the right section to create really complex and varied sequencer outcomes. And it becomes very, very exciting because you are, in many ways, really not limited like you are with so many step sequencers. And then when you start taking into account the fact that it is MIDI and you can control it via MIDI and it can control other things tempo clockwise via MIDI, like for example, the reset, you can force a reset through the voltage-wise through this jack, or you can use MIDI note 1 to force a reset at any point. And likewise, a jump at any point, you can force that to occur using this jack or with MIDI note 2. So you can MIDI-wise artificially generate these jumps and resets at any point using MIDI if you want. So the possibilities are really, really complex and a huge amount of fun. Lastly, I haven't talked about the quantized CV out. Now, to talk about the quantized CV out, there is an example of it in one of the videos that I made where I used the output from the quantized CV out to control the pitch of a second oscillator that was in sync with the oscillator we were hearing. And due to the pitches that it was outputting, it created different timbres for every note of the oscillator that we were hearing. So that was super cool. Basically, the quantized CV out metricizes the voltages to specific discrete frequencies. But it is somewhat random in the way that it does that. And because I'm a person who actually literally sets every single pitch to pre-decided notes, the randomness of it, I think, would be more suited for someone who didn't do that. But yeah, so you've actually already heard that in a demo, but it's a really cool effect. And it is affected by both the glide and the range when you use it. So that is that. And there you have it. It is the Analogue Solutions Megacity 64-step analog monolith of a sequencer. Thank you.